Hey, what's up guys, the Fox back here, and today I'm bringing you guys 3 deck lists because I'm playing in a Gwent tournament in another hour or so, and I'm going to go over the decks that I'm going to be using in the tournament. It's called a Conquest style tournament, so you get 3 decks, then you play a best of 5, and you can use decks that you lost with in that best of 5 more than once, but once you win with a deck in the best of 5, you have to it gets removed from your deck list for the rest of the rounds. So I have them labeled deck A, B, and C. So yeah, I'll just go over them in order. First one is Radovid, Northern Realms faction. This is the deck list. I run 3 Blue Stripe Scouts and 3 Blue Stripes Commandos just for the buffs on Tamaran Infantrymen, which gets big, huge swings late game, and also good for early game control because Blue Stripe Scouts are crewmen, 1, and I have 2 Battering Rams for that. So, yeah, next up is the Tamaran Infantrymen. Usually want to keep one of them in your hand at all times so you can bring them out whenever, or if you have reinforcement in your hand, that's always good too. So yeah, they're just a key card. When you buff, you can buff them up to 6 with Blue Stripe Scout, so you get 18 for 1 bronze late game. It's really good. Then we have Battering Ram. Good synergy with Blue Stripe Scout, and also Radovid is now crewman after the more recent update, so you can get big damage trades out of this, up to 14 damage trade, which is really nice. Alright, and then we have Stennis, just because Stennis is just amazing right now. Usually want to use him in round 1 or 2 and res with Shani later, because it's one of the best plays in the game right now. Res Stennis with Shani. We also have Trollolol for armor gen for our heavy cavalry to take it off and gain off of it. So yeah, that's a really good card to drop at the beginning of rounds. It's kind of awkward though when you're playing against another armor move deck, because they can also remove the armor off it, so you have to be careful. I also run Philippa just for damage output, and also clear if they summon things that I don't want on the board. I can usually clear it early game with Philippa, and yeah, it's just a really good card overall. Has like I think 16 damage potential overall, including the 1. So yeah, it's a pretty good card. Then Shani, as I said, you usually res Stannis, however you can res whatever you need. You can also res Lokes if you really need to, Margarita Lokes, or Death Mold if they're really running like heavy like Legendary Weathers or something and you already use that instead. You can always res that with Shani just for good trades. Then we have John the Talus, which is just an amazing card right now. He can bring out one of these 2 tactic cards, which both get heavy value out of. I run 2 Reaver Scouts. 3 aren't really needed. We're usually looking for 1 in our opening hand, or 2 to get all of our Blue Stripe Scouts out, or at least 2 of them. And you can use the other one to get another Battering Ram out, or Cavalry. Then we also run 2 Cavalry, obviously, a Death Mold just for weather clear in case they do have Legendary Weathers. Margarita just for reset and lock. Reset is really good in the current patch because people are playing heavy buffs, like for example armor removals, like Cavalry just boosts itself, so it's good in almost every situation. Then the 2 tactic cards which Natalis pulls out. Obviously Reinforcement, really good card, and Commander's Horn, just because you usually have enough on 1 row to get the full 20 value out of that, and it can turn rounds around quite quickly. And then our last card, our last gold is Dijkstra. Just because it's an amazing card, you pull, like say you pull Stennis out, then you get 3 cards. Like you can pull like Stennis or Shawnee into, like, it's not even just loyal bronze or silver cards. It's golds too. So you almost always get full value out of this, just because nothing really hurts you. Like you can't like scorch your own minions because you don't have scorch in your deck. So the only thing you have to be careful of is pulling out Commander's Horn and you not having a sufficient row to use it on. Be really careful of that, and also be careful of pulling out Cavalry without having any armor to remove, because then you only get 8 value out of it. Alright, so yeah, I think that's it for this deck. And then you have Radovid for the double lock as well, and Crewman. Alright. Alright, I'll move on to the next deck now, which is deck B that I'll be playing today. It is a monsters deck list. Let me find it real quick. There we go. Aridin, triple Biting Frost, triple Wild Hunt Hound. So let me just go over this real quick. Alright, so yeah, we have triple Wild Hunt Hound to obviously pull out Frost from deck. Triple Earth Elemental just for carryover. Wild Hunt Warrior, you can get heavy value out of this card. Damage by 3, boost by 2, that's 11 value out of a bronze with possible removal of 3 drops, which is also very good. Then we have Drowner, which is an amazing card after the recent patch. Basically, you're always going to have weather on the board, so it's basically like an 11 drop, and then if nothing is on that weather side, then it also does an extra 2 at the end of at the beginning of your opponent's turn. So it's basically a 13 drop if they only have one thing on the board. Yeah, Morva just for lock potential, also does high damage to high power enemies. Really good card. Jotun, this card's like amazing right now, especially when you pull things into Frost, and it also pulls it into spear tip range. So yeah, it's just a really good card. Caretaker just for optional plays from your opponent's graveyard, especially with the current prevalency of armor removals. You can always pull a cavalry out of their graveyard and remove their own armor, making for like heavy swings, because you get the armor and they don't get the armor, so that's like already like a 20 value swing right there, plus the 17 that you're pulling out of their graveyard. This card can be like literally a 40 value card if you think about it like that. So yeah, it's just a good card in general. Also can pull like locks and stuff out of their graveyard if you need them. You just usually have a lot of options with it. So spear tip, obviously, we have a lot of moves, so a lot of moving cards, so it's just really good to have on Rose, and you can also manipulate Rose however you want to. So you can also make him fall asleep again, drag him back out for the deploy ability. You can get like heavy value out of him just from manipulating Rose. Caranthir, really good card still, even though it's been hit like 3-4 times even. I don't know how many times this card has been nerfed, probably I think 2 or 3. But yeah, it's still a really good card. Honestly, pulling one enemy is better than 3, because when you pull, you usually just want to pull, like say they have two things on one row that's already frosted. You don't want to pull both of them to the new frost row. You want to pull one of them so you're dealing 4 damage instead of 2 each turn. So yeah, still a pretty good card. They also nerfed the power by 1, but that's fine. So yeah. Imolrith, they buffed him by 1 power last patch, so now he's basically a 17 trade, 8 damage removal. He's really good, especially you can get full value out of him when using Frightener too. So yeah. Doragare, just because he can spawn a Drowner, which is a key part to this deck, as well as having many other options such as Savage Bear, Wyvern, and Ekimara if you need that carryover, or you want to eat an ally off like Weathered Row or something like that. Just he has a lot of options, as well as one of the big plays for this deck, which is Drowner. So we basically have 4 Drowners. Abaya just for weather removal, and you can also deal triple damage, so 12, 15 damage if there's 3 in a row, 4 damage removal. You don't ever really use Trentorian, but yeah. Alzur's Thunder, just because a lot of cards right now, such as Henselt decks, use the Temerian Drummer, or I think it's the Temerian Drummer that buffs a random ally, and then he like Hensel's it 2nd turn, and then he gets like 3 of them, and you basically lose the round. So yeah, you want to have Alzur's Thunder to kill that as soon as possible, so he can Henselt it next turn. Then obviously Triple Biting Frost, that's what this deck revolves around. Marigold's Hailstorm, it's basically a staple in every deck right now, but it's specifically good in this deck because of the moving allies, and also Frightener just for turn swap and draw power. And it's also great for setting up Spear Tip, because this will basically stay on the row that you put it on, and it pulls an enemy. So if they summon a minion, you put Frightener down, pull, or they have 2 enemies, you summon Frightener down on one of their enemies' rows, and then pull the other one, so there's 3 on one row. You can basically get full value out of Spear Tip then. So yeah, it's a pretty good card. Yeah, and that's it for this deck list. Aridin the leader. He just has like a whole lot of options. Sometimes you might pull out Warrior, sometimes you might even pull out Rider if you want to be doing more damage on one row over the entire round, and a lot of the times you might pull out Navigator if you only had 1 Hound the first turn, so you can get 6 value out of a Navigator and a Frost on the board. So that's pretty good. Alright, that's it for this one, and we'll move on to the last one now. Alright, the last deck list is a spy list. John Clivet. Actually, I don't think this is it, yeah. I believe it is at the very end of the... Yeah, here it is. Alright, so this is the deck list. This has been a very popular deck list. You've probably possibly seen it before. Double Brigade, double Nazuka, double Impera, triple Impera Enforcer, there's triple Infiltrator. And we have Peter just for resets, which can be valuable both when you're resetting your enemy and when you're resetting your own unit. And then we have Kahir just for the great ability of John Calvet. Rainfarn, usually to take out either Duet or an Emissary. Sometimes Cantarella. It depends. Menno. It's a great card right now, especially with Infiltrator. Village Force, just for you can always stack like Medic and get heavy value plays out of him. Yeah, I think he's a great card in general. You also usually know what you're pulling with him because of John Clevitt and Kahir. You usually know what is on the top of your deck and what's not. So 2 medics just for rezzing possibly enemies or even your emissaries, just to buff brigades and use and forces damage. We also have Kalak. He's a great card right now. Summons an emissary assassin or ambassador. Usually, sometimes you do need Assassin, and you don't have one in the main deck list, so he's good for that. And Ambassador is also a decent card if you are looking to just get a value spying enemy on their side, so you can also buff your brigades and stuff like that. Then we have Vanamar for Weather Clear, obviously. You don't normally use other things. Sometimes you might use Overdose in niche situations, but yeah. Marigold's Hailstorm, just like I said before, it's pretty much a staple in every deck. Yeah, it's just a great card in general. 3 Emissaries, it's basically the core of this deck, as well as the Enforcers and Infiltrators. It just helps you mill through your deck as much as possible, and deck thin, honestly. Duet, just because it's an amazing card, and most of the time you know what you're pulling with it, with Emissaries and John Clevitt and Carrier. And then Kentarella just for card drop potential and turn swap. It's also a spying enemy, so it's also going to boost whatever you have on your side by 2, like boost your brigades by 2, and your enforcers can then deal damage as well. And if you have no other big targets, you can always Mano Cantarella. Alright, and then John Kellevitt's the leader. Look at the top 3 cards in your deck and play one. Usually you use this to see what you're going to be pulling with other cards. Like, you see the top 3 cards, so you basically know what you can do with Emissaries and Wet and stuff like this. So yeah, it's a really good card, especially when you have another card in your deck that basically pulls out the same, basically another Kelevitz for power and does the same thing, so you just have to draw it. Okay, well, that's the deck list, guys, for all 3 of my decks. I'll be playing in the tournament in another half an hour, I think. So yeah, guys, thanks for watching, and be sure to rate, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.